What's going on, HPP fam? Welcome back to another episode. We're kicking this week off with a bunch of things. We got a Mishimoto radiator that is getting warranted. We got a box with some headers. Those are JP's headers, fresh from Jet Coating. So we got Gio over here, rocking and rolling. As you can see, he's got the mid pipes out and he's going after them shorties and get them out of the way so we can get them new headers on. As soon as the header's on, we're still waiting on that lid to come back from paint. So as soon as we get that, we've got like a few little small things to button up, and then this thing will be ready for some tuning. We got this 5.7 charger in this morning for a diag. I think we got a case of some clogged cats and some suspension components that need to be replaced. Click clacking around. So that's what we've got starting on this morning. Let's dive in and see where it takes us. We got our parts for Wayne's, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull Wayne's in, put that thing together. It's alive! It's alive! Don't worry about that sound you're hearing. It's got a dual disc clutch in here, so it is chattering, but the motor is quiet. The Wayne's is finally up and running. We got oil pressure looking good. No check engine lights at the moment. And going through our first warm-up cycle of the engine. So exciting. Moving right along. Oh. There we go. Camera's acting wonky again. Time for a replacement. Put down in the comment sections your suggestions for a different camera for the vlog. Anyways, as you can see, we moved JP's car over here because it's in timeout. I'm just kidding. The blower lid is still at paint, and the painter was sick, so we don't have an ETA on the lid, and the fun don't stop. So it had to move out of the way so we can get our main lift back open. As you can see, Wayne's focus is on there, and that's because we're tidying up the last few things, putting the window cowling on, making some final adjustments. I'm getting that thing ready to start tuning. We've already got the base map in it, and it runs and stuff on the new 2000cc injectors. But just finishing it up because we put it aside for a couple things. We needed a different pulley because the front cover on the new engine is slightly different, and so we needed a pulley to come in about a little over 1/4 of an inch, so that way the belt was perfect. We got with the company that sent us the engine for that, and then a gasket on the oil filter housing as well. So we got both of those things put on, and now everything's good on that end, so now we can finish everything else up. Those were the things that were holding us up. The window cowl on those cars, the motor set pretty far back, so that's the last thing you put on once everything's done. And then we've got Mason. We've got Mason's Ram back, and we are going to be doing a TSP cam and a single turbo kit and a Holley high ram on that one. It already has a fuel system, and the motor, I'm putting an air quote, you can't really see it, it's got a belt motor, and I'm air quoting it. Mason, if you're watching, I know it's got a built motor in it. However, we didn't build it, so we're definitely at this point in time going to do our due diligence and inspect it, because we've dealt with vehicles in the past that were supposedly done by other shops right, and you know, we try to be as transparent as possible at High PSI Performance on what goes down in here, what we find, what we see, and pass that information on to you guys. Whether we make a mistake, another shop makes a mistake, whatever the case may be, I want you guys to know and be aware so you guys can look out for the same things. But anyways, we're going to do a compression test on the cylinder leak down. I think we've already done one of those tests when it was here last time, but it ended up being the fuel sending unit was bad, and the truck didn't have gas, and so it kind of threw all that stuff out of whack of why it wasn't running properly. But anyways, we want to do our due diligence before we slap a turbo on this thing to make a bunch of power to make sure it's running 100%. So there you guys' update. Once we get Masons in, we'll see how these tests come out. Also, we got our stroker motor for our Ram truck back from the machine shop, so that's there. And as you can see, we got our heads with our new springs and stuff right there ready to go on. So that one will be coming in shortly to get it already has a Texas Speed cam in it, but get the cam put back in that motor, get the heads put on, and get that one back up and going. So as you guys can see, we got the intake off, a little unorthodox way, but it makes it easier to get at everything. We've got all the coil packs removed and one spark plug removed from each cylinder. So that way we can perform a compression test and cylinder leak down test. Which, looking at the plugs, they don't look too terrible. But our readings so far are not looking the most pristine. So it's not wrote on here, but I'll go ahead and write it on here. We got 145. So as you can see, that's pretty close to 10%. That's well over 10%. So we're gonna go ahead and finish, but it's looking like the motor is gonna come out. Ooh, watch out! Got the shot, Gio. Anyways. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to get a PR incident on our hands. So we're going to get on this back cylinder and see what it is really quick. I'll take you guys along for the journey. Alright, so it's connected. I'll get you on in here so y'all can see. No bueno. That one's looking like 140 as well. We'll go ahead and test the other holes, and I'll show you the results here in a second. So guys, I've got some news. Got a couple of 5.7s, well, maybe one's still not really a 5.7 anymore. But I've got a couple of engines out right now. Our Ram that we have outside, it's freshly built. Not going to say what size it is, but it's a 5.7 base block. It is a stroker motor. I'll leave that up to the customer if he wants to tell people what it is. But fully forged rotating assembly and crank. Getting a Texas Speed Stage 2 cam and a few other small things. This thing ain't a race truck, but the dude was like, if I'm building it, I want to build it so that way if I plan on doing things in the future, I'll be ready for the power. So that's the right way to do it. So we're putting this thing back together. In the meantime, we've also pulled the motor out of Mason's Ram. And the reason that we pulled the motor out is in the process of checking things and preparing for the single turbo kit, the new cam package, and all the things that we're going to be doing to it, bigger injectors, Holley high ram. It's getting a whole list of parts. We started finding things that were not good. As you guys know, Mason's truck was in the shop before, and we found like a sending unit problem. It was out of gas, the motor was out of time. There was a few things that we had found, but all we did was pull the valve covers, loosen the rocker shafts, pull the front cover, and retime the engine. Now that we have pulled it completely apart, on the driver's side, we have found damage to the pedestals. And we've also found that somebody has jammed larger bolts into the headers in different locations. So looks like there's some damaged threads going on there. That thing's like bent. Just chunked in there. Like there's a big bolt there. I think on the other side, the head's even missing bolts. No. Just poorly done. And then we also found this Johnny in there. Nice little bent push rod. The lifters all look okay. But just because of that, this motor is built as well. I do not know what shop built it, so we're going to do our due diligence. As you see, the oil that came out of there does not look great. We're going to do our due diligence and take this thing apart and inspect it. If we're going to do all this work to this thing, we want to make sure that everything's right. So we're going to tear this motor all the way down, check ring gap, the whole 9 yards. Check the cylinders, cylinder walls. Just make sure that it'll be ready to handle the boost that we are going to throw at it when it's done. Good news is we should have the lid back for JP's supercharger next week. So hopefully we'll be able to get this thing wrapped up next week. And then Wayne's is to the point where we are doing our 150-mile break-in as requested by the engine builder. So we're going to drive this thing 150 miles, get the oil changed again, send them a log to appease them and the warranty for this engine, and then just keep moving forward with our tuning process as it goes, so that way we can get this thing on back to Wayne. I heard there's tacos for lunch, and I'm excited. I wanted to show you guys real quick. Gio just finished up trimming the windage tray / crank scraper / oil pan gasket on this Hemi. He has clearanced it so that way we have no touchy issues with any of the components in the bottom of the engine, i.e. the rods or the crank, being that this is a stroker motor. So if anybody wants to screenshot that, with those areas clearance, you have no issues with anything hitting. So now we can go ahead and get the pan on this thing, get some mounts on it, and a flywheel, and spacer plate, and we can get her tucked back on in this Ram. So unfortunately, guys, due to not being able to get a few things from the parts house in time, our motor did not make it back into the truck yet, but it is ready to drop in. As you can see, the pan is on. So this thing is ready to go in. We're going to put it in just like this, and then we'll slap the heads on it and everything else. But yeah, first of next week we should have JP's lid in for his red eye, so we'll be able to get that car back together, get it wrapped up, and hopefully get tuning on it. And yeah, I put 30 miles on Wayne's Focus today, so just shaking it out, making sure everything's good to go, and everything went well on the voyage. So we'll be getting that thing tuned up as well too. So hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. I know there wasn't a bunch of dynoing going on in this week's episode, and that's just due to the dyno being 100% down. We sent everything off to get updated to all the latest firmware, software stuff, and to hopefully get our eddy brake up and working. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.